Hello everyone. In this video I will tell you on how to store and dry mushrooms. Now first I will tell you why we dry mushrooms. The first is that, and the most important reason why you dry mushrooms is to preserve them. These are oyster mushrooms, by the way. If we store these oyster mushrooms in the fridge, they'll last for only 5 to 7 days. But if you dry them, or if you actually dry any mushroom, then they will last for a very long time. They can last months, years, and even years actually. As long as you keep them dry. If they get moist at some point, then they will rot. And the second reason why mushrooms are dried, because apparently it enhances the flavor of the mushroom. It does work with some mushrooms like porcini mushroom. Porcini mushroom, the scientific name of it is Boletus edulis. It tastes much better if dried. I've never tried it, but I've heard that it does. But I'm not sure if it works with oyster mushrooms. I think maybe it does. Yes, now I'm going to tell you on how can you tell if the mushrooms are dried. First, get one. It should decrease considerably in size. It should be hard and it should snap like that. It shouldn't be flexible. If you find it that it is flexible, then it means that it is not dried enough. It's not flexible. So now I'm going to tell you on how to dry these mushrooms. Now first I'm going to tell you that there are many ways you can dry mushrooms. I recommend 2 ways. The first is using an electric dehydrator, and second is sun drying the mushrooms. I sun dried these mushrooms. By that I mean I put these mushrooms in the sun and then I just let them to dry. In my area it is a summer season right now, and in the summer season these mushrooms are not that hard to dry. It only took me a few hours. But if it's very cold or if it is very cloudy, then you have another option, that is using an electric dehydrator. Yes, an electric dehydrator produces heat and has a fan beneath it, so it produces hot air, like hot wind actually, due to the fan, and then dries the mushrooms. That is reliable if the sun is currently blocked by clouds, or if there's not much sunlight. Because if it is the summer season, then I recommend sun drying it, because it's very cheap and it is not that difficult. There's apparently another way. You can use a drying rack with a mesh beneath it, and if you use that, it actually takes a long time. So I don't recommend that way. That is less reliable. Yes, that is how you. So there are several ways you can use these mushrooms. You can crush them, and then they can be used as a flavoring. They'll turn into mushroom powder. Then mushroom powder can be used as both medicine, or you can just use them as a flavoring. Or another way is that you can soak them in water. They'll rehydrate, and you can use them just like fresh mushrooms. So now I will explain on how to store these mushrooms. Now, the way you store dried mushrooms is different from the way you store fresh mushrooms. And yes, you have to store them. You can't just leave them like this, but they will probably rehydrate from the moisture in the air, and they will rot. So you don't want to just leave them here. You have to put them in a container, and you should put them in a closed container. Otherwise, there won't be much difference in putting them out here like this, or putting them in a container. It should be a closed container. If you are storing fresh mushrooms in a fridge, then do not put them in a closed container like this. If you are storing fresh mushrooms, then it should be a open container, or maybe on a plate or bowl, because fresh mushrooms don't get killed if you harvest them. They will continue to respire, and they will also continue to produce spores. Yes, the fresh mushrooms don't get killed if you harvest them, but these dried mushrooms won't produce spores and they don't respire. So, as you can see, I have a metal container here, and you don't necessarily need a metal container. I'm storing them in a metal container, but another container like a plastic container or any container actually. Like you don't need any specific container. Just make sure the container is not moist inside. Like it shouldn't have any water or something like that, and it should be closed. If you like, you can put some silicone gel packets here. Like it will absorb the moisture. It is usually used in electronics, but can also be used in mushrooms. Just make sure it didn't get mixed with those mushrooms because those are not for eating.